Raday Leavy here. Before we continue, I just want to say something. Bring to my mind. I was in a conversation with this guy, and pretty much he's in the same kind of he's in the same boat that I was in. He's around a lot of I'll say older folks or what have you, and he's just wondering how to really deal with that. Like, he shares a lot of the same views I do. He doesn't. I mean, there's stuff wrong in every generation. I mean, there's stuff wrong with everybody. Like, no one's perfect. But for what it's worth, he kind of sees things as still all right. Like, being a part of this generation, being a part of where you're at, just being where you're at, it's okay. So I get, and what he's kind of wondering is, how to address that, how to go about that. For me, I can't tell you how you should or shouldn't act or what have you. But for what it's worth, I can say this, and this is what I want to kind of do. I want to make this almost like an informal address to old heads. So for what it's worth, for my old heads out there, first of all, let me thank you for bringing us here, this generation, me. Thank you for bringing us here. Good, bad, indifferent, black, white, brown, yellow. Thank you for sacrificing or doing whatever you had to do for us to be here. For what it's worth, for being an elder, and out of respect, I say thank you when I bow my head to you. Now, with that being said, comes the fun part. If you listen to any of my other blogs or whatever, then for what it's worth, you kind of know what's coming next. This is our time. This is our generation. This is our baby now. You had your time. It's ours now. And like I said before, and I'm going to continue to say, every generation takes the step that the previous generation didn't take. So whoever you are and you're seeing stuff wrong with this generation, understand that we're just doing what you didn't do or didn't want to do or it just didn't come to your mind to do, and now we're doing it. Good, bad, or indifferent. And with that being said, overall, I could say, yes, we are in America, the United States, I want to put it. We're here, and we're still thriving and stuff like that. But I mean, as far as our generation, man, you didn't leave us with much, right? To be honest with you, you didn't leave us with much. I mean, for what it's worth, a lot of those good times that you guys talk about. I remember back in my day when we had this going on, and at least we did this, at least we did that. If you're complaining about what's happening now, then you did a shitty job of preserving that for us. And it's your job to preserve, right? If you got it good, you preserve that so that way the person that comes after you can partake. What essentially happens is, and what's going to continue to happen, you got it good, and then you just kind of let it go, and then we come into the world, and it's almost like we do what we do, and you say, well, I don't understand. Where did that? I don't know. We got it good. Exactly. You got yours, and it's a whole new way. Like, we have to figure out a way for us to get ours, and it's not as simple as just going to college, right? Way back in the day, maybe my grandpa's time, just get your high school diploma, you get a job. And then it kind of became, okay, well, once you get your college degree, you get a job, and that's kind of what it is. Now we're at the point where, first of all, college is expensive as shit. So, and we have to get a higher degree. Like, nowadays, I mean, I have friends and shit that have bachelor's degree, and they're at these entry-level jobs, like making cold calls and stuff like that. Like, you gotta be shitting me. So, we need higher degrees, which require more money, and tuition and everything's higher. And that's just like a small slice. I mean, plus, for what it's worth, old folks, I mean, you're sticking us with a bill that that you just can't be paid for. That you're taking up a bill that my kids are going to be paying for. And God only knows the bill that my generation is going to put to my kids in this country, right? So, I mean, it's like we're paying for all these things that we're never going to use with Social Security. I'm not getting that, but I'm still going to be paying for it. Just a whole bunch of other stuff. So, I mean, for what it's worth, it's pretty frustrating, right? I mean, even then, everybody talks about the 90s and how was that .com bubble and the internet and everything like that, and yet no one put anything aside. No one said, hey, well, let's see what we can do to keep this going. I mean, I understand a lot of politics and, fuck George Bush and all this other kind of good stuff. All right, I get that. But for what it's worth, all I can see is my generation, and it's just that it just is what it is. Essentially, how you see things and how we see things are differently. Think of it like this way. Let's say that there's just a glass right here that divides old heads and young folks. And, here's this young folks, old folks, glass. And for what it's worth, old folks are pulling away, and we're going to this glass. Now, when we, as a young person, look at this glass and we're going, what we see, it's clear to us. So what we see is old folks, and they're pulling away. What old folks see when they look in this glass is a mirror, essentially. So they're pulling away, and they're seeing all this good shit that they've got, right? I mean, if you've got the degree, if you've got your retirement, if you got all this other kind of good stuff, you say, well, shit, just go to college or just do this, and you'll get this. And that's not the case. See, you see the mirror, and you say, okay, well, yeah, okay, cool, da-da-da-da-da. And we see it as, oh my God, like they're pulling away. We're not getting that. But see, the problem is, you're going, but you're just going to be gone. We're going to smack this glass, right? We're going to smack this glass eventually, and you're going to be so far gone, it's not even going to matter. We're going to be the ones that's going to have to break through this barrier or crush the glass or do whatever. But, I mean, that's kind of just the way it's going to be. And a lot of your advice just isn't going to help. I mean, we live in a different society. We live in a different, time. But, I don't want to go too deep into that. But there isn't much that has been left. It's like we're feeding off residuals here. We're not thriving the way that we should. But I'm not complaining. It is what it is. We still live in a great country. God bless the USA and all that other good stuff. I'm just telling what it is. And for my black people, especially, because, for what it's worth, I mean, this is where a lot of my heart is. And I could tell you, old folks in the black community, just stop. I mean, I can't. I get it. I get that you try. I mean, I can't understand. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to old, and they say, I just can't get through. I just can't. Well, if you can't, then stop. Overall, I keep hearing, well, I just don't know what's going on with you guys. I don't know. And you keep saying, but here's the dichotomy. You keep saying stuff like, I don't know, and then you want to come to us with advice. Like, you just admit that you don't know, and you want to come to us with advice about something that you don't know. And here's the thing. For what it's worth, we barely know. We don't even know. Like, we're facing, and I say we're facing an enemy, for what have you, that is nameless, faceless. I mean, it kind of just is. I mean, for you old black folks growing up, yeah, it was easy for y'all. Because you knew who you knew who was against you, right? I mean, for what it's worth, evil had a face, right? It was either, You know, like, you know, fuck segregation, or, you know, fuck Reagan, and fuck, you know, I mean, but for now, that's all, for what it's, as far as on the surface level, that's all gone. Right? Now we got a black president. Right? So a lot of that, you know, a lot of those, I'll say, excuses are gone, but a lot of the problems still remain. So, you know, for what it's worth, it's not, at this point in time, I mean, it's something else, and it's something that you don't know how to face. If you did, then you would have faced it already, and we would have advanced as a people, but we didn't. But let me break it down like this. Say that you are, no, let's say, like, have you seen the movie The Great Debaters? If you have, you should see it. If not, rent it, buy it, own it. I don't care. Bootleg it. Hell, if you bootleg it, that goes right back to the black community, right? But on the Great Debaters, they just got back from a great debate, and I remember they went to like this ball, and you know the guys wearing the tuxes and the girls wearing the white dresses and all this other kind of good stuff. And you know the chicks, they had these little things, little dance cards, and the dance card is when you kind of, every time you dance with a different dude, you gotta like check, yes, I danced with him, or you tally up the guys that you do, something like that, so that way people know how many girls you dance with, and you don't, or how many guys you dance with, and you don't seem like one of those girls. And you know, so they were there doing that. But one of the guys that was part of the team leader, I mean, he's from the swamp. And that's not like that's not a slang term. Like I mean, as far as what they depicted, he's really from like the swamp. Like he's got like this shack in like this swamp area. Like that's where this dude is from. And you know, basically that's the life he lives, the life he grew up knowing, right? And so, you know, for what it's worth, he likes this girl. And she's at this ball, and they're you know, she's dancing away, and basically he says like, look man, let me take you to a real party. So he takes her to this real party, and it turns out, you know, it's in this like shack, and they got the banjos going, the harmonicas, and this dude, like, you know, the moonshine's popping, like, and they bumping and grinding, and it's a good time. And I just remember thinking like, that's what we do. Right? I mean, as far as like, that's what we do. Pretty much what we did is we just took that swamp to the ball, right? But, I mean, for what it's worth, I just remember thinking, like, okay, it takes a lot of coordination to do a ball. Like, you gotta, you know, tuxes, dresses, you know, food, and you gotta rent out a hall or do what you gotta do. But in order to have like a swamp party, you just need like, back in the day, just like music. You need like a banjo, harmonica, moonshine, and a roof and people, and that was it, right? Like no coordination. You get there when you get there. You leave when you leave. You grind and wine and dine, and that's what it is. And I remember thinking like, there was probably a lot more of this going on than there was this. Right, even especially if you look at socio-economic conditions, like this is where most of us were. So most of us were doing this, but yet as a people, you know, I hear old folks all the time, we used to put our best foot forward. Well, great, good for you. But what they did is, you know, we uplifted this, but as a people, as a whole, this is what we really were. You kind of see what I'm saying? And it's pretty much, it's gotten to the point in time where a lot of this bullshit that has been participated in isn't flying anymore, right? Like it's just not. Like, for what it's worth, this has always been here, but as a people, we've always put this first. But it's almost like yes, we present ourselves nice and we have the nice suit and tie and everything. But let's say that we were just sitting on like a park bench that was just freshly painted, and we got all this paint on our back, and let's say we've been sat in some shit, so we've shit on our ass, and you know, fucking paint on our backs, and we just look, but yet we still present ourselves like this, and I mean, eventually someone's gonna see our backside, right? I mean, eventually we gonna show our ass. Eventually, someone's gonna see us, right? And that's pretty much what happened. And you ask, oh, well, how did that happen? And I hear two. These are the two excuses I hear over and over and over again. I keep hearing integration, and I keep hearing Ronald Reagan in that crack, man. Ronald Reagan in that crack. First of all, let me tackle the first one, integration. Right? They say, when we were segregated, at least we had our doctors and lawyers in our communities, and, it is what it is, and we were happy, and we were a community, and we were all this, and as soon as segregation left, that's when all our professionals left and everything like that, and left our communities destitute and everything like that. Well, here's the thing. Based on that information, we really weren't a community. Because you can't break up a real community. It's hard. You can't break up You know how simple it was to break up that quote-unquote bullshit that you call a community? They just say, hey, we open a door. You can leave if you want to. If you were a real community, no one would have left. If people were really happy where they were at, no one would have left. But it seems like no one was truly happy, or else people would have stayed. I mean, that's just a human nature, right? I can tell you right now, someone can tell me, hey, bro, we got you a first class one-way ticket to this place. When you get there, there's going to be a car waiting for you, house waiting for you. It's in your name. It's yours. Done. Perfect. There's even going to be a girl waiting there for you, man. It's going to be off. It's your new life. You can go. I'm like, that sounds cool. Where's it going to be at? Slovenia. Slow what? Nah, nigga, I'm cool. Slovenia sounds like Slovakia's like uglier cousin, right? Like, I don't want to go there. It's cold, and the women are decrepit and skinny, and I don't want to be there, right? I mean, that's essentially, if we had a real community, then integrating with anybody else would have been like a Slovenia for us. But instead, it was like the promised land. Why is that? Because that swamp stuff that was going on then, that's going on now, that's always been there, and they wanted to get away from it. But as a people, as old folks, you never addressed it. You wanted to uphold this part and say, oh, or that'll take care of itself, or that's not really us, or they just need to da-da-da-da-da, and just uphold this. But take it a little bit further. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, y'all look forward. I'm looking back, right? And I see, because for what it's worth, I don't see the harm in it. To be honest with you, because when all the blacks were leaving, there was something called white flight. White flight is basically when black people started moving into neighborhoods, people moved. White folks left. What does that do? When white folks leave a neighborhood, right, property values decrease, making it easier to get a house, making it easier to go and be a part of, that community, better schools or what have you. So for what it's worth, it's almost like I don't see it as I see it as expansion, right? I mean, it just seems like there's more space to do whatever the hell you got to do, and that's just not been taken advantage of because people want to hold on to this faux standard of whatever the hell they think that we were, but. I mean, for what it's worth, not only do we have more space to do whatever the hell we want to do it in, but now there's more black millionaires and billionaires than there's ever been. Ever. So, for what it's worth, there's more opportunities for us to be, I'll say, wildly successful, and we got more space to do it in, and yet you see that as a bad thing. But, I guess that's probably just perspective, opinion. I'm pretty sure if you were here, we'd have a lot more in-depth conversation with that. But the second thing people say that broke us up was what? Crack? Look, I'm telling you this right now. If it's not already in you to smoke crack, you're not going to smoke crack. Right? Because people talk about Ronald Reagan and that crack, man. Ronald Reagan came through and dropped crack in our communities, and that's what did us in. No, if you were a real community, crack wouldn't have affected you. Think about it. If you were a real community, if you were really happy in your community with your people, would you really let crack take you away? Like, would you really let that affect you? No, you wouldn't. And that's what essentially happened. Like, for what it's worth, because I'm a happy person, right? I mean, you know, I may drink every now and again. I mean, it is what it is. But, you know, I don't just crack. You got to be shitting me. I mean, Ronald Reagan himself can come to my door with a kilo of crack and 2 bad white women, and I will not take it. At least not the crack, anyway. Right? Because I'm happy. Right? But there was something within that person that made that person want to smoke crack. And that happened to be in a lot of people. So, if you were a real community, if you were really happy, you'd be telling stories about how Ronald Reagan tried to pump crack into your communities. Tried implying failed. You'd be telling stories about how he tried and failed to pump crack into your communities. But you're not. You're telling stories about how he did. So, what's the problem? I mean, what is it? I mean, he didn't put that pipe up, you know, to your uncle and made him smoke it, right? No, your uncle picked it up on his own. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, you can't, they talk about, oh, the devil tempted me. Well, what is there inside of you that's being tempted, right? I mean, if it's not in you, then you can't be tempted. But for what it's worth, that's what it is. And like I said, now, our generation, we are what's left when all that bullshit has been wiped away. You know, there's no more, oh, well, this is our best foot forward, and this is who we really are, and this is us, and oh, don't worry about them. They're just, you know, and da-da-da-da-da, and oh, look at us, I got my church hat, and I'm sitting in church, and I'm feeling so proper, and I'm da-da-da-da-da, and oh, don't worry about that riffraff over there, that's, you know, da-da-da-da. Like, no, what you're seeing is what we really are. I mean, I granted, we've had tons of progress, tons of breakthrough, but there's always been issues that have never been dealt with. Maybe because we were dealing with other stuff, but, you know, for what it's worth, this is it now. And this is what we gotta face. And it's something that you don't know how to face. You keep saying it. I just don't know what's going on. Exactly. You don't know. This is for us to figure out. Right? But, you know, I don't know. For what it's worth, that's what it is. You know, we just do what you won't do or haven't done, and it's just ours. It's just ours for the taking now. It's just ours to do. Let's see. I was gonna say one more thing, and then I was gonna be done talking my stuff. Can't think of it right now, but you know, I'm pretty sure it'll come later. I'll probably do like a part 4 or 5 or whatever on this particular subject. But for what it's worth, old folks, just ride off into the sunset, help out what you can help out with, and for what it's worth, just let us be us. And going back to what I was saying earlier when I said overall you didn't leave us much, it's the same thing with black people. You know, I mean, for what it's worth, you talk about how you had Malcolm and Martin and, you know, you even hip-hop. Oh, you don't know what hip-hop is, and we had Public Enemy, and we had all this, right? And it's like, you didn't preserve any of that for us, right? You left us, I mean, look at any statistic. There's less fathers in the home, you know, all this other kind of, less fathers in the home, more drugs, more killing, more violence. So you left us fatherless, filled with, I mean, as far as the old gen, what you left us, fatherless, leadershipless, as far as, you know, we don't have any great leaders type thing. So fatherless, leaderless, I don't want to say cultureless because culture just keeps going, but I mean, you see what I'm talking about. All the stuff that you have, if you didn't make a consecrated effort to preserve it, then stop talking about it and just leave it at that. That was your day, this is ours. And start supporting people that are actually trying to do stuff. You know, I keep saying this. You keep focusing on the negative. Oh my God, he has his pants down and he's listening to this and that. And it's like, yeah, people like me who have their own businesses, well above 3.5 GPAs, all this other kind of good stuff. And it's like, shit. It's don't focus on me or don't focus on us, right? But for what it's worth, man, it is what it is. You know, there's gonna be a lot more on it. Keep tuning in, and with that, there's gonna be a lot more coming. So, hey, Raday out. And as far as my young people concerned, keep doing what you do, keep grinding, and just keep trying to find you. Don't find what anybody says you should be, but find the real you. And with that, I will see you later. Raday out. Raday.